This is lesson 5.4, Applications of Proportions in Pre-Algebra. And one of the things that you're going to use proportions for, and applications mean we're going to do some real-life proportions. But one of the things you use a proportion for is if you've ever used a road map. A road map is a small picture of the actual planet. The road that you're actually driving on. So it may say that your scale is 1 inch equals 1 mile. So 1 inch on the map is going to be proportional to 1 mile on the real highway. So you can kind of get an idea of how far you go, because if it's 10 inches across, you know that it's 10 miles in real life. So that's what we're going to look at, is just how to use some of these proportions. And example 1 says that we've got this woman, she's driving her car 270 miles in 6 hours. If she continues at that rate, that speed, whatever that is, how far will she travel in 10 hours? Well, let's use proportions. So she can go 270 miles per 6 hours. How far will she go in 10 hours? So we're looking for X miles in 10 hours. All right, so see how this is set up. We put miles and miles on the same line, and time on the same line. All right, it doesn't matter if those were switched around, hours on top and miles on bottom, hours on top, miles on the bottom, as long as you have your common units on one level and your other common units on the other level. And then we use our cross multiplication. We're going to take 270 times our 10, so we're going this way, and that equals 6 times our x. So 2700 equals 6x. Divide by 6 to get rid of that one, and we end up with 2700 divided by 6, which is 450 miles. So that's how far she's going to actually go in 10 hours if she's going 270 miles in 6 hours. If you look at example 2, talking about sports, if he gets, a ball player gets 8 hits in 18 games, if he continues at the same rate, how many hits? So that's hits. How many hits will he get in 45 games? So notice games is on the bottom, if you can read my writing. So we're going to multiply these two, and 8 times 45 is going to be 360, and that's going to equal 18x divided by 18, divide by 18. Those go away, and our x equals 20. So if he gets 8 hits per 18 games, that's the same as 20 hits per 45 games. Now if you take your calculator and do 8 divided by 18 and write that decimal down, and then put a 20 up here, 20 divided by 45, you will get the same decimal. The ratios are equal to each other, and that's the nice thing about proportions. So let's look at example 3. We have a solution that has 4 milliliters of alcohol and 20 milliliters of water, H2O. If another solution is to have the same ratio of milliliters of alcohol to milliliters of water, and must contain 25 milliliters of water, how much alcohol should it contain? Okay, so what we're trying to do is we've got our 4 milliliters of alcohol and 20 milliliters of water. So 4 milliliters of alcohol per 20 milliliters of water. Another solution is to have the same ratio. So we're going to put an equal sign there of alcohol to water, and must contain 25 milliliters of water. So it's already telling us that there's 25 milliliters of water. So what we're trying to figure out then is what is the number of milliliters of alcohol. So that being the case, we cross multiply 4 times 25, and that equals 20 times x. So 100 equals 20x, divide by 20, divide by 20. Those become 0. 100 divided by 20 is 5, equals x. So 4 milliliters of alcohol per 20 milliliters of water is the same as 5 milliliters of alcohol per 25 milliliters of water. So the next one that we're going to do has to do with a map, and just like I talked about earlier. The scale on a map indicates that 1 inch corresponds to an actual distance of 85 miles. So we could do 1 inch per 85 miles. So every time you see an inch on the map, that represents 85 real miles. So 2 cities are 3.5 inches apart on the map. What is the actual distance between the two? Well, let's make a proportion, which means we're going to have 2 ratios or 2 fractions. So 1 inch over 85, and what did they give us? They gave us 3.5 inches, so we're going to put that on top because we have inches over here. So it automatically tells you where your other one's going to go. So you're given 3 bits of information. This is the one that you don't know. So multiply those. 1x equals 85 times 3.5 is 297.5 miles. So 3.5 inches is equal to 297.5 miles.